Getting ready to do a clear coat on the RS3. I'm going to be using Meg Satin Varnish. I have the clear coat on the model, so I'm going to want to give that a minimum of 24 hours to dry because I am going to be putting enamel thinner on it, so I want to make sure it's cured. I had a little bit of a disaster, putting the windows in the model. I got some canopy glue on my fingers. I got a little canopy glue up on the cab roof. And when I tried to peel the glue off, I pulled up some of the clear coat. So I had to knock the clear coat back. You can kind of see where it goes right to about here. And I also have some clear coat that pulled up right there. And you can see where I tried to pull it back to where it's sticking real well. I removed the clear coat from the cab roof. And I sanded this area, trying to get it flattened out. I sanded through the gray paint, got down to the plastic, so I used a bit of lark gray and touched that up. I'm not sure how this is going to look. I'm going to put another clear coat on it and see what I end up with. And I'm going to have to re-clear coat the cab roof. I'm going to do what I can to try to salvage the project. I got a lot of work in it. And really disappointing that I had the issues. But, sometimes that's how it goes. Just have to figure out a way to salvage it. Well, I'm going to start doing some of the pin wash on the lower chassis. I'm using MIG oil brusher, Starship Filth. It's kind of a grimy black color. And this is odorless terpenoid. Works great as a thinner for oil paint. And I want to highlight some of these details on the fuel tank and the trucks. Now, the beauty of oil paint is I have a little bit of working time. Get my brush cleaned up. A little bit of thinner on it. Remove the extra oil paint that I don't want on here. All right, well, I have the trucks. I have the pin wash on the trucks. And the fuel tank. So hopefully that picks up a few extra details. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let this sit and dry for a few hours. And then I think I'm going to dust the trucks and the tank. Just put a light dusting on the bottom. I'm going to use an airbrush and do a light dusting across the bottom of the trucks and the fuel tank. I'm getting ready to spray some dust along the bottom of the trucks and the bottom of the fuel tank. I'm going to be using some Tamiya buff and thin it down with Tamiya lacquer thinner. I'm going to want to get it thin, pretty thin, because I don't want a heavy buildup, just a light dust. I'm using my Badger Sotar 2020. And with this airbrush, I should have pretty good control. And with a thin mixture, I can control how much paint I get on everything. And you can see how thin that paint is. I don't need much paint. I just need to mix up enough paint to get a little bit in the cup. This little bit of paint will go a long way. Alright, that's it. That's all I need. Done. Alright, so the chassis is now finished. You can see I got the pin wash on the trucks, pin wash on the tank and the cylinders, and I have the trucks, the fuel tank dusted. I have the clear coat reapplied to the cab roof, and I also applied the clear coat to this area right here. And you know, I have to say that I just did not do a good job with the clear coat. You know, I have some areas on the chassis that are pebbly, and you know, for the most part it's all right, but I have a few bad spots. All right, time to do some pin wash with the RS3. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this black oil paint and some odorless turpenoid and make a wash, and I'm going to go in and highlight these grill areas on the model. These are the only areas that I'm going to use black. So squeeze out just a little bit. I need to thin this paint down. All right, try that. I have the black pin wash applied to the intake here and then these grills. And also these louvers here in front. And I have that done on both sides. So now I'm going to move to a lighter color, this Starship Filth oil paint. And I'm going to start highlighting the panel lines using this grimy gray color. I have the pin wash done on the RS3. It took me about 6 hours. You can see where I've used oil paint to highlight some of the recesses and the covers. I got to mix up some gray. I'm going to use black and white. So I'm going to take these two colors and mix up a light gray. Don't need a lot of paint. Just going to do the top of the RS3 shell. And I got way too much black in there. That's looking pretty good. So take a look at the RS3. You can see the oil paint we just mixed up is quite a bit lighter. So maybe just a touch more white. All right, I'm going to go with that. All right, I have my gray oil paint. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a small amount of oil paint on the model. And then I'm going to thin it way out with my brush. This is a little bit dangerous and I can really mess this up. So, but that's what I'm doing. All right. You can see it's not looking too great right now. I gotta work this paint in. And I have about the right amount of fade. I just need to get the paint evened out. Okay, I just worked the paint in, and this is a dry brush. I try to spread it out, make it even. I have some working time, but at the same time, I can't dawdle because when the paint's thin like this, it dries pretty quickly. So I'll just keep brushing it in. I have the top of the locomotive faded. And I used oil paint, fade out the top. You see the red's faded just a little bit into pink. So I think that's as far as I'm going to take that. And I put some acid streaks down here in the battery boxes. Now, I don't know if the locomotives have batteries on both sides there, but I put streaks right here on both sides. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of rust on the cab roof. I have some MIG ammo, old rust. I have a small piece of foam, and I'm going to use a little foam painting on the roof and get a little bit of rust up there. I want to be pretty gentle. All right, I like that. It's not even on both sides, but you know, things are random in the real world. So I'll go ahead and go with that for my roof rust. I've dropped the shell back on the chassis, and I'm going to put the couplers in it now. And I'm on the home stretch. I just have a couple other things I want to do, and then we'll finish it up. Now, typically, I would paint the exhaust, but I think this time I'm going to use some pigments. Now, it doesn't take much. I'm just picking some out of the cap. So a little bit goes a long way. I'm liking my fade on the top of the locomotive. Thinking that looks pretty good. I think it's done. There's one thing I want to do in the future, and that I did not put the seats back in it. Now I'm going to want to go look online and see if I can find some crew figures for it. Pulling the shell off is not a big deal, but I'd like to put some crew in it. I'm going to put a series of still images up. I have some stills of the finished locomotive. So those of you who have gone through this project with me, thanks very much. Appreciate you following along. And for everyone that's just checking in now, thanks for watching. And I'll catch you next time. Thanks again for watching.